AD&A Presents. Today, we're honored to have Tony Stevens back. We're going to be talking about the film Possibilities. That's AFB's production of a documentary that will be coming out based on the distribution excitement here. Tony is a senior nonprofit leader with more than 25 years of experience in PR, strategic planning, and change management and resource development. He's led grassroots organizations as well as national campaigns rooted in the power of storytelling and building relationships. As my own career has developed, the guidance that I've been given has really changed to let's collaborate together. And I think Tony really exemplifies that and has modeled that for his career. So it's exciting to talk to him about that. But today's focus is going to be on the film Possibilities and where things are at and what he's excited about. So thanks for joining us, Tony.
Thank you so much, Roy. It's great to talk to you again, man.
Let's start by saying Possibilities. I'm thinking about how it started, when you started with it, and where it's at now. What's the thing that's changed the most that you're most excited about?
It seems like lifetimes ago. It'll be 3 years that I started AFB in December 2022 when I came on board. And the project was going through significant restructuring at the point that I came in. When I started AFB, that was when they brought on Bill Sarine of Beach Glass Films, the director, who you've known for a long time and I think even helped make that contact maybe, but brought Bill on board and really gave a real sense of focus and direction for the film. It's roughly 95, close to 100 minutes, if you include the credits, of a documentary that captures the life of Helen Keller and her impact and her legacy. But there was so much more to her life. She worked at AFB for 44 years, started in 1924, and then up to the point when she passed away in 1968. It had pretty much stayed with our organization along the way. But the movie isn't a biopic about her. It's more about the experiences and impact that she left behind and the stories of people that are blind or have low vision or deafblind today. And that was something we really wanted to capture. Now, we're coming out of a year of festivals and screenings, which has been fantastic. We wrapped it up really great. I got a Garden State Film Festival hoodie on. You were able to fly cross country for that festival. We won one of the best doc awards there for New Jersey independent filmmakers. It was an amazing festival in Asbury Park, New Jersey last spring. And it really capped off the end from when we started at Grauman's Chinese Theater the year before as part of the Golden State Film Festival for California when we premiered the film there in Hollywood. And it was just an amazing road to have traveled, right? When I came on, my job was to get it over the finishing line. I had an opportunity to be a speaking voice in the film that bridges together many of the chapters of Helen's life as the documentary unfolds stories about education, independence, discrimination, things of that nature. But it allowed us a chance to really build on one of our strategic goals that AFB has been launching around changing the perception of blindness, trying to create a more positive perception. We didn't want to be what people always say, and I hate using this word, the inspiration point. These, oh, you're so amazing, or are you like Daredevil, is one of the lines of the documentary. And we wanted to be just an authentic portrayal. But we also wanted to do something that was very unique with the film as well. And one of the things that I was excited to take part in was coming into those, as Bill Sarine, our director, was finishing things up, getting a chance to engage with you and your team. I'll never forget in Burbank, sitting in that screening room with you and taking notes around the detail to the audio description. Hats off to you and your team in the work that you all did in producing really one of the first full-length major films that really innovatively approached how do we make it accessible for blind and low vision audiences through the use of described narration that can really make it inclusive for all audiences, right? And working through that process, seeing the film not just be a documentary, but really something that's innovative and new. And that's one of the things I think really resonated. I had a chance to fly out to Corinth, Greece last year outside of Athens for the Bridges International Film Festival, which is it's probably going to be one of those highlights that on my deathbed, I'm going to be envisioning these beaches along the Aegean Sea that I had a chance to walk on while we screened our documentary. And it was in those international, we were in the Hungarian Film Festival, and one in Istanbul and Barcelona and South Africa and Durban, South Africa. And I think one of the things that resonated wasn't just the stories, but the uniqueness of the way that we're making media inclusive. So again, hats off to you and your team. And that was one of the things that as we look towards distribution now, the next step is trying to find a permanent home where we can now share this with the whole world, not just the 250 people that took time out of a Saturday afternoon in Asbury Park, New Jersey to watch it with us, but who can watch it with us along the way. And so that's where we're at now in terms of just working to find a permanent home. And as well, we're still very focused on how can this be used as an educational tool, right? because we found in the screenings, and we did additional screenings as well. Like we did one in Brisbane, Australia, through at a conference of blindness professionals and families. I wanted to screen it at a theater. So Bill and myself helped get stuff together and send it down to Australia. So they had a full theater rented out with popcorn and movie posters and screen it down. And it's really resonating more than we thought with just our own community. We knew our community would find it interesting, but we always thought it'd be just telling them stuff they already. But there's something about it that really resonates. There's a whole section about blind joy, the things that we find in community as blind people. So it's really touching two audiences very personally. Those that have never encountered a blind person that learns what it's like to walk in those shoes. And at the same time, in our community, it gives this sense of reaffirmation and pride as to who we are. And yeah, this is how the world sees us, because I'm blind, been legally blind my entire life, total since I was 15. And it's something that's really been resonating. I think that's where we are with the film and where it's going. And we're really looking forward to finding ways that we can get it to our community, get it to schools for the blind, get it to educators, special educators, but also, too, get it into the homes of people that can experience something that's inclusive, right? You can cook in the kitchen and know what's going on in the film and without having to deal with trying to find the right button for your audio description and stuff like that.
It's really interesting you say that. I was talking to somebody yesterday who works in audio description, and one of her friends was complaining about, I love to watch my shows, but I also want to cook at the same time. The resonance really works. And with this open AD, I got to tell you, Tony, with this international reception that you're getting from Hungary to Greece to New Jersey to Los Angeles, that each of these experiences are really pointing to, hey, this is really an exciting film. And you've mentioned the educational tool aspect of it. And I'm wondering, in your conversations, one of the things that excited me the most about producing the audio description is that we had an all-blind team that worked on it, from the writing to the quality control to the voice, that each element of that was part of like a meta reflection of the film. I'd worked on another film that was an Oscar-nominated film where we produced with an all-blind team on the audio description. And it's interesting to me how you've experienced that sharing, either within the blind community or those who might not be familiar, that you had mentioned the inspiration porn, changing that perception and going towards what accessible audio description means. I'm curious, has any conversations come up on the creation of the audio description from an all-blind team? I'm thinking about AFB's focus on representation and education. This seems like a nice tie-in.
There's definitely a sense of excitement in as much to say as, like that kind of, that's cool. And not just, that's cool, like you heard something that's cool, but the idea that, I went to journalism school. My undergrad was in radio, television, and film. Needless to say, they put me a lot on the radio side. I learned how to pull focus on a camera based on how far do I turn the lens, but I never knew if it was really in focus, my film side of it. But there was an idea that, like, Hollywood was unobtainable. For me, it was New York radio, right? It was be a voice somewhere. Not to participate in the visual arts, not to participate in a medium that is so, not just so powerful, but so mainstream, right? Cinema defines culture. When you talk about what the 1980s was like, you talk about Back to the Future, you talk about all the cinema that, Breakfast Club. Just over time, it's like cinema captures part of American life and preserves it forever. And it's never really been an industry that I think people that are blind or low vision think they could even have a foot in. And so in that sense, I think it's really sparked some interest in to say, and we're doing this in a lot of ways with other industries like STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, things that historically, when I was a blind kid growing up and I was going through school, you get steered places. And if I would have said, I want to go to film school, I'd love to go to UCLA or USC and go to film school, I would have probably been stirred away and deterred and said, nah, maybe we should think about this instead. And I feel like with this film, we can tell people, look, you can have a place to work in Hollywood or Atlanta or Winston-Salem or New York in something that is so mainstream and cultural impact-wise of cinema and film. And I think that's been one of the things that resonates with the people that I've talked to when we get down into the weeds about Colleen and others that really worked on it, the writing, the editing, and all that stuff. It's, there's a place for us as well. And that makes you feel good, because a lot of times you don't feel like there's a place for you in certain industries.
It's great to hear that model. Behind the scenes is also modeling what was represented on screen. And going back to what you said earlier about that, blind joy, that is a really powerful segment within the film, but it also is reflected throughout the entire film that, yes, this is about Helen Keller and not just that one moment that everyone recognizes as a blip in her life, but the entire experience of that contribution. I guess what I'm asking is, when you think about impact of Helen Keller and think about the impact of AFB in your ideal situation, dream scenario, what is this film going to do as far as the impact for what AFB is trying to do? How is the film tied to that AFB's impact?
I would love it. And this is where your audience hopefully can help out with, or you yourself even. In the late 20s, early 1930s, AFB started working on this crazy idea of sound on a disc, right? And in our AFB studios and working with RCA, we were able to perfect the 33 and the third record, which gave us the first talking book. We're working on how can we celebrate that. The first one was in 1932. And there was enormous explosion into long before Frank Sinatra was recording at 33 and a third RPMs of this new technology, right? A new medium, a new way to experience, to pass the time. Because that's really what film does. It helps us pass the time, makes us smile, makes us think. But it's a recreation, right? It can be a learning tool as well. But at its core, it's the same way that a talking book was. It can be recreation, you can learn. And so here we are 100 years later. Media has changed significantly since 1920s and early 1930s. But I think at the core, it's tapping into our legacy of what we did then. And can we do it again with this? In the idea of, and we got a lot of stuff I can't really share right now about 2026, but there's some exciting things I think we're going to be launching that really capture the new spirit and the new media and the new digital revolution that focus in on ways that people that are blind can not just pass the time, but something that can be made for a broader public, like what you're talking about. We've mentioned people in the kitchen, but how can we take inclusive media and make that mainstream? And that's the big goal. Like we did it with this film, thanks to you and your team. How can we make it where it's not something that a separate but equal, right? Which was what civil rights law was for so long. But even in the space of disability space, when you talk about a reasonable accommodation, it's still, in a lot of ways, something that's separate but equal. Paratransit in cities, for instance, for people that are blind and people with disabilities, you have to ride another bus. Now, yeah, it'll come get you, and it makes your life enormously possible to get out of the house, but it's still separate but equal. And audio description is fantastic, and the work that you and everybody that listens to this podcast that probably is somehow tapped to the industry tackles these things each day with creating inclusive media. We're still at a point where it's separate but equal. But what's great about possibilities is it's not. It's just equal.
Mm-mm.
And that's what we love about the film. And that's what we're trying to, I think, in a sense, sell. And not just sell this as a film, but sell this as an example that you can do this as well. We can create media the same way that the talking book was originally a piece of media that was just for the blind or low vision. It became ubiquitous and today is coveted as this hipster cool art form. I got my box of records downstairs, my turntable with my overpriced stylus and all that. But it all started with people that just wanted something that was separate but equal. And so here we are now with an opportunity to take something like Possibilities and I think push it out into a new space. And my hope is it can be that snowball, that little small snowball that hopefully we get more and we can encourage people to create more and more inclusive media that is mainstreamed. So yeah, that's my dream. That's what keeps me awake at night, daydreaming.
I love it. Yeah, that's. I know you mentioned the film as an educational tool, but the analogy of the snowball effect and how it's modeling other ways to connect.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
We're just, as an avid listener of just audio description and the work you've been doing and the work that other guests that you have over time do on this podcast. I'm like Ringo from the Beatles, man. I'm just happy to be here.
Okay, Ringo. How could we follow you? Social media, websites, etc.?
If you got any questions about the film, you can email communications@afb.org. You want to subscribe, I do a podcast each month called Access World Podcast with the editor-in-chief of Access World Magazine. Email communications@afb.org and you'll always get me. And if you just want to nerd out and chat about audio description, or as we try to maybe get some other screenings, you might hopefully see this again soon, Possibilities, hopefully on a streaming platform, but in other places as well. Yeah, let me know and I'll buy the popcorn.
Sounds great. Good deal. Thanks so much for joining us, Tony.
Thanks so much, Roy.